Hi everyone, and welcome to the churn rate management use case with RightPick. In this use case, we're going to showcase a data grid as it is a e-boot method on RightPick that allows for a more structured type of input, and this allows us to be more precise when entering data in a similar scenario like this, where in this example, we have a list of values. So it's easier to follow that same structure within RightPick instead of using the traditional forms. So in terms of the churn rate analytics and anything related with that, it's very important to retain the customers because they're on a subscription-based service, for example, they're a very large part of the revenue, right? Because we want to keep our customers engaged and want to assure that annual recurring revenue. So the churn rate tells us how much of that revenue could potentially be at risk. So that's exactly what we are analyzing in this dashboard. Based on that, we run some machine learning algorithms, for example, and we have some predictions of what are customers at risk and how much of our revenue is at risk because of the churn rate. So our goal in here is to make some sort of validation on that machine learning algorithm, understand how we can potentially reduce the churn by following up some customers. So with this actionable process, we are trying to understand and get a more accurate representation of our annual recurring revenue. So to do so, I built RightPick over here, and we're going to first start seeing how this works and how it connects with the rest of the dashboard, so we can get a better look of what we can actually achieve in a scenario like this. So first of all, RightPick is already set up. So I'll show you in a moment how to get to this point, but to actually use it, we select any marks on our report, and we bring them into RightPick. And as you can see, on a structured way, we have the same lines of data being pulled into here. In this particular, the three customers that I've selected, and now I can provide an action. So two of our customers are already at a significant risk of churn, right? So we actually want to keep them. So our action for these ones will be must retain. And for the other one, it's not yet too critical, but the recurring revenue is a considerable amount. It's in a top 10, something like that, of our customers. So let's actually follow up on this case so we don't get the same scenario as the previous ones for the next year. We're going to raise the category to high, so we give a little bit more importance to it. And the rest of them, I'll say that for now, that's good. In the risk adjustment, we can actually make a slight adjustment because, let's say, the algorithm ran just 1 day short of when it should have ran. So we get different values. So we can potentially make that small adjustment and say that, so they were all just a little bit higher that particular day. And it can say adjusting the ML values. Okay, so I'll just copy this to the rest of the lines and submit the information. So now our information will be stored in our database alongside the rest of the data, like on a separate table, of course, as always with RightPick. And we can get a quick indication over here of the actual items that we just entered. It's just a small field that I created to indicate if an action was taken on that particular customer or not. And if yes, we can then see the actual value and the representation as well of the entries that were changed. For example, the one that I switched up to high, which is the one that ends with or starts with F7. The one over here is now set to I as well because of my change with RightPick. So it's very important to get this type of very quick feedback in our reviews to understand how everything is evolving and to have it ready for other processes that come after this as well. Alternatively, and this is not specific to the data grid, but it's worth mentioning as well that we can, instead of submit everything in here, we can use the bulk upload feature. So we get the template file, and I already have a template downloaded, but if I didn't, I'll just save the file. And then the file looks somewhat like this. Of course, the first section over here wouldn't be there. This is just a pre-filled one that I did for demonstration purposes. But then once we do film it out, we can put it like this. I'm just essentially making up the same values that I would make in the actual data grid. And once the file is ready, save it. I can then upload it in here and submit right away with the data being inserted right there. And once again, I get the updates into the dashboard right away. Of course, it's a much faster way to achieve these results, and we can do several more lines of data at the same time, which could potentially be useful if you're using Excel to bring a lot of data into the right bag. Would it be like the first an initial load of data, just a lot of corrections that would be tiresome to do manually one by one or just by selecting the dashboard? So just to give you some other perspectives, but traditional data grid would mostly be used like this, where the lines of data that we want to adjust are provided human inputs that is necessary in some actionable processes. We can make it set in a very easy and structured way. And of course, as you see, every entry that we see from RightBack, it's actually affecting the overall revenue that we have at risk. The values in updating up here, and then of course the values in the graph themselves are updating. And to get to this point, of course, the first thing we need to do is to build the worksheet in itself, like build the worksheets with just essentially how we would build it if there was no RightBack there, right? So you'd build your overall overview, like your totals in terms of categories, as well as the individual lines that we actually want to analyze in these. These are the top ones over here are just to provide additional context, and then the section in here is to provide more detailed analysis. Then once that's set up, it's time to bring RightBack in. So we would bring the extension object into the dashboard to start configuring it. And based on that, I'll just go here to get my T-Rex file from my locally installed RightBack. You'd be ready to start configuring. Of course, the first time you open up the configuration screen, there's no new fields stated, so the data grid itself wouldn't be built yet, which makes sense, right? So we have to first select the worksheet we want to work with, and then what fields we want from that worksheet. And once we're ready defining this, so if I wanted to replicate what I have there, for example, I'll just remove all the unnecessary fields that I will not use. Essentially, at the end of the day, I could just use the customer name in this case, because I know that's the unique identifier for this data set. So I could just leave it like that. Then I would define the name of the table that RightBack will create to store the data alongside. I mean, this could be alongside like in the same schema or a separate schema. Usually our recommendation is to use a separate schema for the RightBack data, but it could be the same database server. So that's why I'd be saying alongside, provided of course that your database is within one of our supported technologies. Of course, you could have the table easily accessible just like you have any other table that you typically use. Then last thing to define before enabling the data grid view, which essentially toggles RightBack from being a form into the data grid that we see in here. It's to define the fields that we'll have as columns. So in my case, I have the action that I want to take, if I want to change the risk, but I'll actually show you this within my configuration so you can see how it looks like. So as you can see, I have the worksheet selected, the field that I want to read, and then the table name and the field that I have on the columns. In particularity for the action and the risk category, they are predefined fields where I define the options that will show within the dropdown. So I can easily submit my changes and make sure that my users are submitting the correct values that I need. That being said, the only thing missing would be then to just switch on the data grid view. Over here in the dashboard settings, the only other thing that I have that's out of the standard would be the auto refresh and the unique entries. The auto refresh at this point would be a second level configuration, so I would have to establish the relationship on the dashboard between write-back and my source data, and then I can come here and enable the auto refresh so we see the data updating. And this is because I have a live connection to the write-back table in the data source that I'm using here. So this way I get that information readily available when I submit the values. And other than that, it's the unique entries, which essentially makes it so that whenever I have an entry already, I cannot add more entries to that particular line of data, because, and this is mainly when working with numeric values, I wouldn't want to have multiple entries for the same customer. I just want to get the latest entry, so I get the unique entries option, which only allows me to have one. Of course, I can make changes to what's there if I need a new value, but at the end of the day, I only want to have one unique value per customer. Right, so once we have everything set up on the write-back side, it's then time to move on to configuring Tableau again. And the first step, of course, would be to link the tables. So I could use a relationship most likely as well, or in this case, I'm using an outer join to get the data between my source data, which is the revenue operation sample data. By the way, this is from an accelerator in the Tableau exchange. And then the same identifier that I have on my source data, I have on write-back, because I'm saving that information. That's the field I'm using to do the join. Then with these two connected, and I see that it's a live connection, so I get the auto refresh working. I get that ability now to actually build the worksheets accommodating the write-back values. So, for example, going to the worksheets, main worksheet that we have our process on, we're gonna see that, of course, I have this action taken calculated field that's essentially a true or false value to show if there's a value submitted by write-back or not. And then I can use an alias. This is essentially an alias with a check mark to say yes on the true values. The false values are just false for now, or in this case blank. And then the actual value, the annual recurring revenue value, that we either see the original value, as you can see when there's no write-back information, we see the original value, and when there is write-back information, we see the actual new values. And that's just done very simply with another calculated field that based on data from write-back being null. Okay, so essentially on a join, if the data from the write-back side doesn't exist, then we are showing the original value. Otherwise, we will show the write-back value. And that's exactly the same thing that we're doing for the actual predicted risk category as well. Just exactly the same calculation, except for the risk category. And then we're just on top of these, of course, because of the way write-back keeps auditing on the table, we also have a field to show only the active values or the null ones. So the null ones, again, are the ones that don't exist on the write-back side, but still exist on the source side. So that would be all of the entries that don't have an action taken yet. And lastly, by the way, on a typical scenario, and I forgot to mention this before, but I would actually prefer to have these like so, where whenever I do a submission of something through here, they don't actually display on the list anymore because I don't need to work on it. And as you can see, the action taken is just here visually, just for demonstration purposes. I would actually remove it and show a filter like this, or enable a filter like this to show that information. But for demonstration purpose, I think visually it makes sense to show you the things happening here. Otherwise, everything would just disappear. And just on another note, for example, for a more broad calculation in here, that's considering all the values, including the ones from write-back, we have a different calculated field, but the logic behind it is the same. So of course, instead of doing a sum of every original value or a sum of every right back value, we'd still check the right back value exists or not in global. And if it does, then we do a sum of the either this one or this one based on the individual values. If I was to show the actual headers in here, we would see that this is nothing more than the totals, including all the right back, or sorry, all the customer names. Of course, it's a very long list, and if it is standard, we can see that's the output of the total that we're using here. But then I'm hiding away the information, so what we actually have at the end is just the unique value, and this way we get the accurate value because we're still considering all the customer names, all the including the ones that don't exist on RightBack yet, which is very important to make sure that over here we get the accurate representation of our adjustments when we have the RightBack values. So with this, we can see how we can build an actionable and very structured process with RightBack using the data grid view. And hopefully you have now a better understanding how to set up these type of use cases that require some corrections or an input view on something like a table view that we are accustomed to use on various supports. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything like that, just reach out to us and we'll help you with anything. And have a nice day.